is today is like
It's
I'm
weird.
not.
Is it cutting off, Mohammed? Is it better like
No,
this?
no, it's like it's in the background. It's not.
So I might have to remove these. Is it better this
No,
way, Mohammed?
yes, yes, absolutely. Now I can hear you very well.
Sorry, guys. Okay, so I'll quickly, maybe I'll just repeat what I said then. I'll repeat what I said. So what I was saying is that, so two things. A, you have about 15 minutes each to present. Okay, so the presentations are about 15 minutes. If it goes a little bit longer, that's okay. I'm not, like, it's completely okay. It can go up to 20 minutes, but let's try to, as best as possible, to keep it within 15 minutes. And then the other thing I said is, while the presenter, the one of you is presenting, so while the presenter is presenting, is going on through his material, I want each of the other two, so the other two of you, to take notes. Take notes and write down at least one question that you have for the presenter, okay? And this question is, you need to think about this question almost like feedback. So you know how when I produce feedback for you, right? That's the same kind of idea that you're doing too. It's you're providing feedback, constructive feedback to the presenter, so that the presenter knows what he needs to clarify or look into more detail. Okay? Or some things that maybe he hadn't thought about that needs to be thought about. Does that make sense? So basically you're doing like a dual exercise today. Each of you are presenting, and then you will be also though writing comments and questions to your fellow presenters. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes.
Perfect, Amat. Thank you, and I hope my voice is clear right now, right? It's getting to you better.
Yes, very clear.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so who wants to start? Who wants to volunteer to start?
Yes. Let me volunteer to start it.
Perfect. Thank you, Mohammed. I will share the presentation with you. Like, I will share it on the screen. And then, Mohammed, whenever you need, whenever you want me to change slide, you just tell me. All right? You tell me, Mirko, change slide. Does that make okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. I will share with it here. Let me open it. Great. Here. Can you see it? Can everyone see it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Mohammed, the floor is yours. Hassan Omot, make sure you're taking notes and writing down questions that you have for Mohammed. Okay? Mohammed, all yours.
Okay. Okay, Mirko, for giving me this platform to share my presentation with my colleagues. And also thanks to them for listening me in my presentation. So, the first thing first that I want to start is my research, and what I'm going to do in my research, or the first thing that I want to check in my research. So I have not written in my photo gallery. I just, in the introduction, I just forgot to do it. This come up now. So I've written it in my notebook. So I want to read from my notebook, so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. So the research topic that I want to look at is the negative impacts of private schools on the education sector in the DAP refugee camps. Especially, it's a study case of secondary schools in Agadera. Especially what I want to look is the secondary schools that are located in Agadera, in my research, who are privately owned. So, Mirko, if you can, yes, I want to talk about this picture that we are seeing on the screen now. This one is a map. I chose this map to give a little bit overview of how Agadera looks like. Someone who is going to look at it. So I've written a small caption there. This Agadera refugee camp in the Dab, Kenya. So Agadera refugee camp is located in the Dab region, especially it's a refugee camp. On the names Agadera campus I've written there. So this is where I want to conduct my research, and this is how its map looks like. So what you see here is Agadera. These are the blocks, the market, the schools, the other amenities such as the hospitals that we have in Agadera. So anyone, I think, can now have a bit of overview of what Agadera looks like. So this is where I'm conducting my research. So that's why I've chosen this map to be at the forefront of my presentation. So that's it. I want me go to you to move for me to the next. As I was looking something to present, this photo comes up and it's in Agadera, a school called 15. So these are learners, very small learners who are learning in the public schools where the NGOs run it. So these learners are very happy. So this picture captures the forefront are seated by girls, small girls who are learning. They want to learn. They have challenge. Private schools challenge these schools, the public schools that are run by the NGOs. So it's like in the community, they influence it in a negative way and also in a positive way. So those learners who learn private schools are deemed to be learning more or better than these other children who learn in the NGO schools. And in secondary schools, it's turning the other way around. Recently, those learners who are in the NGO schools or the public schools are passing very well in the exams, and they're also the ones who put themselves in a more responsible way to learn. Like they read so much. Like these are the guys in private schools these days. Most of them are just going there because private schools have their own way to pass in an examination. But these other learners in the schools or public schools are trying so hard to pass for themselves. So it's impacted in a negative way to these learners who learn in primary schools. So that's why I've chosen. They're very happy, but when they see a learner who is learning a private school, they think themselves like they're in the lower, steps of learning. So that's why I've chosen these girls who are seated here in a classroom where it's a public school. So I need you, Mirko. Next slide. This other picture is also another picture that was taken from a private school. It's a secondary school. It's located in Agadera. It's populated, as you can see. There's a lot of girls and also boys, and also there are teachers. Maybe I think there are two teachers. So here also I've just sent this picture to give those people who will be seeing my presentation to have a look at how private school setting, classroom setting looks like in Hagadera. So these children, although my picture is not that much, cannot see very well. You can see those guys who are seated in the back of the class are eager to see something that's happening at the front, whether by the chess week. So they are more nowadays. They're more bubblers than the other schools, whereby they private schools are like in the community. They are the best in learning. So students are going to that place, and we came to know, or nowadays other schools are pitting private schools, not like initially. So the opposite of what these children are coming to the schools are happening in Agadera. So that's also one of the things that I want to know why this is happening in my research. Next. This is also another school, well-known school in Agadera. It's a private school. It's called Bushra High Schools. So I think this picture, I'm not the one who was taken, but when I was just looking some pictures, the administration block of Bushra Academy or Bushra High School. It's also another well-known school which uh, led most of the exams in Agadera, national exams, secondary national exams in Agadera, and it's one of the best private schools that we have. So this also their setting and the administration brought the school. So to give you an overview of what this school looks like, I also chosen to show this picture behind the trees. So I think it's a perfect view for someone who don't know Bushra, at least to now the face looks like. Next. This picture, I think most of us who have learned the education in the refugee camps know when they're doing their national exams, the first thing that invigilators and supervisors do is risk learners before they get into a classroom or an examination classroom every time you have a paper in an examination room. So it's a kind of how serious the examination council of Kenya is about the exams to make sure that children get what they read or just write or get grades that reflect on what they have learned. For private schools, I think this one is a public school in Kenya, and here recently private schools, I think they have their own way to do exams. Uh, I don't. I've not went myself while there's examination in a private school, but most of the learners, I think, they do so many things to prevent these things so that they can pass exams. But this the right way that exams are taken during my time as a learner, and also now. So this is how to give you an overview of how national examinations in Kenya are very serious about exam cheating and exam irregularities. So let's move on to next. Yes. This picture says a lot about the scenarios that are concerning education. What I can see is a very big writing is poverty. When you see poverty, you think about what is the role of education in our society here in the camps. To make people sustainable is to save people's lives and also uh, uh, economy in our setting here in Agadera. There are so many things that you could see. There's process, there's growth, there's cause, the situations, lack of so many writings here. Nations. I want people to reflect on these different things that is written here in relation to education that's happening in the camps that I also want to do in my research. Next. Uh, this picture is also is the same as the one that we have seen, but this one is different. It has a more concrete words that we can relate, especially the education that we have here in the camps. These are the impact of social issues that happen in our in our camps here. So there's prosperity, there's dignity, rule of law, justice, peace, hope, freedom, equality, trust. All these things is what I think education should be, whether it's a private institution or a public institution. Their core main things should uphold all these social things, and people should be doing social justice to whatever they social integrity, so that our generation to come to be people who can be trusted on in our country, but in our country. So that's why I have also chosen these hands that have these writings, that people can relate education and see these things while they are learning. Yeah. I think this is my last picture that I've decided to put in this presentation. I've written there, as you can see, some of the education stakeholders in the camps. So as I'm concerned, I want to research about the negative impacts that private schools brought to the camps since they have emerged. Previously, what we used to have was the schools run by NGOs, but these schools are community-based schools. Some of the people who have learned in our communities went and learned something, and then they come back with initiatives that they should run schools in our in our setting. So as they're thinking about to teach our children in a very positive way, some of the things that's happening are negative. So, and we have to sensitize our community that these things are happening. So what is the way forward that we can do about it? So these are the stakeholders. Kenyan government's one of the stakeholders. UNHCR is also another stakeholder in this, and also the private schools. So I want also them to see what's happening and what way the way we are going with this kind of initiatives that good people have brought. So that's why I've also put here. So they're the key stakeholders. Teachers are there, learners are there, community is also there, but uh, these are examples of some of the people that we could think when we are talking about the impacts that the private schools are having. So I think that was the last slide of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mohammed. That was a very thorough presentation and really nice choice of images too. I really like them.
Michael, sorry, I have experienced a cut of power cut off.
I know it is, Tassan, no worries. No worries. I saw that you weren't able to follow fully Mohammed's presentation. That's okay. Omot, do you have any questions that you wanted to ask Mohammed?
Yes, I
his
do.
Presentation?
Yes. While I'm appreciating with my colleague Mohammed Sia presentation, I have some sort of clarification in terms of private schools, because in this presentation he says he is not aware whether Kenya Ministry of Education and private sectors or private educations in the DAP are working together, because Ministry of Education nowadays is regulating also private schools together with public schools owned by government and other stakeholders. So would you try to find how Ministry of Education is involving to make sure that NEC rules and regulations are put in place? Because Ministry of Education is serious, because I want to thank you also by displaying the officers checking on the students who are about to sit for exam. That is now an regulation monitored by MOE, that is Ministry of Education of Kenya. And number two is, how is it possible, especially the hands with different notes, indicating, a perfect involvement, something to do with equality or access to education and respect of human rights, something related to that, to my translation. So how is it possible to implement impact of social issues in education, particularly in the DAP context, because we are here now?
Mohammed, do you want to take those questions? And you don't have to. By the way, I should add. Sorry, Omot, you were still going.
No. I'm saying that I'm done.
Okay, sorry, Omot. I sort of spoke over you. I'm really sorry about that. Thank you for those questions, Omot. Thank you so much for those questions. Mohammed, I just wanted to tell you that you don't necessarily have to answer all the questions. Like,
yes.
You can also just write them down, and if you don't have an answer for them yet, that could be just something to think about when you write your paragraph, right? your paragraphs about your topic. It doesn't have to be necessarily something you answer right away. Just wanted to let you know that. But you can, of course, otherwise you can respond to Omot now based on what you know so far.
Okay. I just want to clarify some few things of what Omot has said. Thank you, Omot, for asking those questions. As we all know, the Kenyan government, you are right when you say they have a direct link with the private schools. They are the ones who administer schools, they are the ones who register schools, they are the ones who supervise schools, whether it's public or private. But what I know is that the private schools are more closer to the government, officers who are conducting all these different things, educational things in the school. So, for example, what I had from different people in the community, and everybody knows, is that when there is examinations, these guys choose those guys who are supervising the national examinations. I don't know how they do it, but it's a kind of manipulation thing that these guys do, and that's why they pass in an examinations. These NGO schools, they get tougher supervisors in an exam. Then those are the kind of things that happen with the examination things and all this. I had in some of the private schools, frisking and all these things don't happen. They don't happen. It's only in the public schools where they happen, and those are the guys who have the owners of the schools protect that things to happen in their schools. So I could say some of the things are like that happen with the government officials and these other guys. The other question was how can we have all these social things in our education system? First of all, what we have to do is we have to teach our children in a very respectful way, and also in a way that have integrity. We have to teach these children to become the leaders of our community tomorrow. We have to make sure we ourselves as teachers and educators in the community that we do the right way, so that these children can also become the right people who can take us somewhere in the future. So that's what I could have said with that.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you for those responses. Omot, does that sort of clarify some of the points that you raised?
Yes, he did. But this maybe we will talk, I mean, because I have sort of ideas to help him in the areas of the last question on possibilities, how to do and to create. We are going to create a human capital that resists those kind of roadblocks in when it comes to education. This is my thinking, but I will liaise up with him and talk about it later on.
Yeah.
Amot, I think I will be having an interview with you when I'm doing it.
No, it's okay anyway.
So just to add, guys, just to add that first of all, I'm really enjoying this the questions and answers, the back and forth. But I just wanted to let you know that tomorrow, hopefully all three of you will be there with Esther. But one of the activities that's scheduled for tomorrow is exactly this. So it's rounds of, they're called lightning rounds. I did this last year with your colleagues from Core 2 as well. So basically the way it works is you present to each other like in 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, your topic again, right, to each other. And then the other person has 10 minutes to give you feedback and so forth. And then you switch, and then you do it to each other, and then you switch partners. And so you do it with someone else as well. And so this is a way to help you think through your own project, right? That's what it's about.
Okay.
Actually, tell me, Mohammed.
I think we have already done that. Me and Asanur, when you have listened my our recordings with Madam Esther Mianomot, he texted me and he had a lot of issues with my topic, and we talked so much, and then what remains is his topic, and we said that we will be talking later. But I think tomorrow we will have time to think that also.
It's great. That's what I'm saying, Mohammed. It's really, really good. It's the best exercise, like speaking about your topic to someone and having the other person tell you like, oh, what do you mean by this? Or what do you mean by, or you missed out a few points here, or this is not clear. It's the best exercise because that's how you can then go back and say, okay, this I need to clarify. How do I actually think about this, right? What do I mean by this word here? And so forth. So it's, what I'm saying is dialogue with a peer-to-peer dialogue is the best exercise for rehearsing your research topic and actually and strengthening your research topic. Before we move on though, I also had a few questions, Mohammed, but I can also just, what I'll do is you can jot them down and then you can think about them tomorrow and you don't have to answer them right now. But they're more feedback kinds of questions. So one of the things that I was thinking about is this. You said they have their own way to do examinations, right? Private schools. So that needs to be a little more clear what you mean by, like, if you have enough knowledge of it already. If you don't, then that's something you'll have to look into. But that's something to think about. So this, because you said they have their own way. So I was curious to know what this own way is, right? Yes. This own way of doing their examinations. That's what I understood, at least. Did I understand that right, Mohammed? You said that right. You said that.
Yeah. That's okay. True.
So trying to understand and write out what this own way of doing your examination is, that could be an important aspect of this. The other thing that was sort of missing from your presentation, I think, but that I know because you've told me about your topic before, is, and then maybe, so that's something to think about, is why, right? Why are these private schools all of a sudden emerging? What's driving these private schools? Because I mean, I was listening to your conversation with Omot, for example, about manipulations and things that are happening at maybe at the public school level. But I mean, those are interesting elements too. But I think what's even more interesting is the focus on the existence of these private schools, right? Why it is that they're emerging. For example, one thing that I was missing from the presentation is why are parents like thinking about private schools quite often these days. And you said they're gaining a lot of popularity, a lot of traction, right? A lot of student numbers are increasing in private schools. So that means parents are a stakeholder that's there too, that you didn't mention, right, in your presentation. So it's someone to think, it's another group of people, another group of stakeholders to think about as well in moving forward with your research topic. So how are parents involved in all of this? And this also relates to what you were saying about integrity. I think that was a very interesting point you made about teaching with integrity, because from my knowledge of it, based on what you told me, at least, it's something to, like, the reason why private schools are increasingly popular is because parents see it as teachers have more integrity in a sense, right? Or there's a focus on values a lot of time. At least that's what you were telling me. So this might be something that you want to capture a little bit more in when you write about when you start writing about the topic, right? Some of these elements as well. So in a sense, why are these private schools like becoming so popular? How are parents fitting into all of this picture as well? So those are things that maybe you can integrate as well when you think about your paragraph, because we need to think about the 3 questions, right? So what is your research topic? Why is this important? So that question, why is it important? That's also something to think about, right? So why are these private schools emerging? Why is it important to think about this? The reason might be because there's a lot of them that are emerging. So it's something that is valuable to research. And finally, what are the stakeholders? So who is impacted by this? I did like your point on Mohammed. I did like your point on that students are impacted. You were saying students are impacted, right? I think at the beginning of your presentation, you were saying because students in public schools see themselves as second best. Did I get that right? Did you say that?
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting thing that you pointed out. That's a very like important impact that private schools are having, right, in their existence, without necessarily, they're not doing it on purpose. Obviously, they don't need to do that, but it is something to think about in terms of the impact that it can have on the future of children that are coming out of public schools. Because if there is an emerging idea that students in private schools are better than those in public schools, then that creates some consequences, some negative consequences for students in public schools, right?
Yeah.
And again, I might be missing pieces of it, so my understanding might be a little bit hazy. Like, you can correct me if I'm wrong in my understandings, Mohammed. But these are some things to think about.
I also want to add little bit value.
Yes, Hassan.
Yeah, actually, we have discussed with Mohammed briefly the other day, and it is really very interesting, very interesting topic to research. It is also good to find the facts. So, as being a teacher for both public and private schools, I also feel like taking him to a few angles to think about and how these schools really emerged.
Yeah.
Actually, and the true picture of what is inside the private schools. Actually, myself, I taught both public and private schools. What we know is that the private schools emerged as community initiatives at first.
Yes.
Because of the bigger, I'm talking about IFO particularly, where I'm from. Because of the big number of students who are graduating from various primary schools. Eventually, at first we have had in IFO, we only had IFO secondary school, one secondary school that can accommodate a few number of learners. What happened was that the community came together and they initiated their own school called IFO Community Secondary School. So they have started paying the school salary, running the costs for their own, and eventually, at last, the Window Trust took over that particular school. Then in IFO, one of the largest camp with the biggest population, we had only 2 secondary schools compared to the population, and we had like 8 primary schools. So imagine of graduates from 8 different primary schools accessing only 2 secondary schools.
Secondary schools, yeah.
Yeah, so there was also a challenge only because of the budget, because of the UNHCR whatsoever. They used to have a cut line, and then they will say we can only accommodate this number of students, admit them in these two schools. What happened was that so community again came together, think of how they can help, because those who could not get access to that education will end up abusing drugs, going to a wrong end. So eventually, this need came about, and these private schools emerged. And what happened is because of the big number of the schools. I think in Hagadera, like we have shifts. In each school, a group of students lands up to 12. That group goes because of a space problem. Another group comes in the afternoon because of the big number. What happened was even in Ifo Secondary School and these schools in Ifo, we have had a very unideal classes where in each desk, a desk meant for three learners may accommodate like 5 pushing and bullying and squeezing students. There was also a problem of establishing classes because of funding problem. In secondary schools, there was no expansion, and the population was growing. And then also the quality of the education, because it becomes just an access to education, not access to quality education in the camp, but just access to education. People have to pass through the 4 years. So because of the big number, because of the budget issues, what happened was performance was a problem. Performance in the schools was a problem. And then what emerged eventually was suicidal cases of students in public schools also was there, where after 4 years of struggle, sometimes students do not get the resources, they cannot afford books, they do not get the right unequal environment, they cannot make it. Actually, they had maybe a goal focus to reach at the end. When they find themselves that they cannot make it, they do commit suicide. I remember 2-3 consecutive years of suicidal cases for candidates, graduate candidates, especially Form 4s. And actually, there was no intervention. There was no intervention. Nobody was caring about what to do, what is behind this, how can we avoid. No intervention actually was made. The student was found in a room, revising for exams, and eventually hanged himself to death. Another case followed the following year. So that was community issues. And then what happened was this second school is emerging. Why there is interest in these schools particularly? I'm not supporting actually any of the schools. I'm a pioneer of both, and I'm not opposing any, but just sharing my friend with the reality on that ground, on both grounds. In this private schools, there are a lot of pushes and push pressures, because this is an initiative. People are paying, it's not free. So there are a lot of pressure, when young students are not, restricted. They ease themselves, they don't study serious, they don't write notes, they don't prepare well in public schools. There's not that much pressure. But in private schools, what happens is that there's a lot of pressure. Students have to wake up, read very hard, perform very hard. So actually, there are good things before exams that they are doing. They are performing, they are learning a lot, they are studying. So the parents who now take their children to that schools and are now paying from their own pocket, however much it is very difficult for them, are now realizing that there is some good values coming out of that efforts. So that is why they found maybe those who can afford use the option of sending them to school. So sometimes it is also good to look at it from the perspective of contribution to community initiatives. It is a factory that is added to the previous factories who are producing those useful men. Some people consider it as a positive, initiatives that is adding value to the community. So that is a bit of the history of this, how they emerged. Actually, I think my friend has to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, Mohammed, that's a lot of information that I'm sure Mohammed knows a lot of it too.
Yes. I know all those things. Hassan, I'm also one of the pioneers of a private school. I pioneered a private school in the Gala, which is a primary school, and I know every corner of this sector. What I want to research in my research is with all those good things happened in our community with the emerging of schools that are initiated by people who from the camps who learn here. What's happening is children. I don't know, for some reasons the quality of education become down with the private schools. Those learners who come from private schools are having, with all this pressure that we have seen, are having poor grades. What's private schools? I don't know the ones of IFO, but I know the ones in Agadera. And I've discussed with the other session. These guys here, some of them have good grades, B+ and above. And when they were called for a WUSC scholarship interview, they could not manage to write their names. We have a lot of them in the community who have C+ and good grades who cannot even express themselves in an interview or within the community. They even shy sometimes with the grade. When you say you have this grade, why are you here? They're like, no, this was not mine. With all these things, with all this pressure and good things that are happening, there's something that's going on in our community. That's what we want to correct. That's what I aim to correct with my research. I want to find out why with all these good things happen, why this is happening. As you said, those learners from public schools, they are not having all these things or with all this pressure. But what I come to know is that those people who are remaining in the public schools are self-driven learners, most of them. Most of them are self-driven learners. They get good grades with good quality. When they have a discipline, they can teach schools. Even what I came recently to know is that most of the private schools, they don't give jobs to their own products, to their own learners that are graduated from their schools. They go and call the ones that graduated from these public schools, teach their schools which have a discipline, while the ones that have B+ who have graduated their schools, they don't call for them. It's a fact. We have to light these issues that we have in our education sector here in the DAP. That's what I'm aiming. With all these good things, why are these things happening? That's what I want to know, so that to correct where we are going, where we are headed. I'm not refusing that private schools are good for our community.
Allow me to
finish.
Hassan, Hassan, 1 second. Let Mohammed finish. Yes. Let Mohammed finish, and then I'm gonna say a few things, and then
yes, I will wind up quickly. They took a lot of pressure from the public schools and from the NGOs who give us the education in our camps. With those all said, there are some things that became in the wrong way with these private schools. So let's see why this is happening in our community. Yes.
Thanks, Mohammed. And before Hassan, before you respond, just let me tell very quickly, Hassan, maybe 1 minute, because you still have to present, Omar still has to present. We still have to discuss your presentations too. So we'll have more. We can keep discussing it at another time. Like you will have time to discuss. Go for it.
Yeah, I just want to add suggestion, small suggestion. Will not take time. That is good, Mohammed. Actually, what if we know also primary schools, the lower, the early childhood also have problems of language development, and you are talking of generally the quality instead of particularly concentrate on private schools. Why don't we generally look at the quality of education quality in the depth? Because what you are explaining is more of quality, and I know also early childhood has a problem with quality. So it could have been more valuable.
I would have loved to do that, but I have done ECD, and I remember most of my colleagues have done research that talk about the ECD. learners. We can get research that talk about these city learners. But what I want to focus is these secondary schools that we have nowadays. So that's why I'm interested in this topic.
And let me just add, and then Mohammed, we'll close Mohammed's presentation there in a sense, and his discussion and questions there, and discussion, sorry, there. What I want to say is, and this goes to everyone, research is exploration, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying something's bad or something's good with our research. We're just exploring. We're seeing basically what's happening, right? That's the mind of a researcher. I think with most of you, we met one-on-one, and I was telling you that when you do research, you have to think of yourself as a learner, right? Someone who wants to understand something, someone who wants to learn about a topic. So it's a topic that obviously you're familiar with, but that you want to learn more about. And that openness of mind, that openness to ideas, that's what needs to drive you. Not trying to attest whether this is good or this is bad. But it's what's supposed to be driving you is a willingness to explore things, to say more about this, right? Because usually what we research is something that we're obviously passionate about, but it's also something that hasn't been maybe spoken about much, right? And so needs to be talked about and explored more systematically, right? In a more like detailed and more in-depth way, right? So that's all I wanted to say. So this is an amazing conversation, and I think this is something that this is why I was saying this is so productive, like as you can tell, like being able to talk about your topics between each other, because I think you can add to each other a lot. So this is why we will keep doing this. Don't worry, we'll keep doing this for quite a lot. So you'll have the chance to keep discussing it. But I did just want to say that it's like, remember, research is an exploration, not a like I want to prove that this is right or I want to prove that this is wrong. It's more of a let's see what's happening. Let's see. I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to interview people and having a better idea of what's happening. Okay. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay, let's move on, because we've been on Mohammed's presentation for almost an hour now. No, an hour no, but 45 minutes for sure. Okay, who wants to go next? Hassan, yes. You want to go next?
Yes.
Okay, go for it, Hassan. I'll share your presentation. Do you want to share it, or do you want me to share it?
It's fine if you share it. It's also fine.
I can share it for you if you want. And then Hassan, all you have to tell me is just when you want to switch slide, and I'll do it for you. Okay.
Okay.
That way, I think it might be easier, no? If I do it for you, that way you don't have to worry about the presentation, like sharing the screen as well. Here, okay. So I'm gonna open it. Okay, and share screen. There you go. Can everyone see it? Yep, it's whenever you're ready, Hassan. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe Mahmoud is also waiting. I'll be so brief and to the point. What am I expected to do, sir? Explaining each slide. What am I expected to do?
So go over, Hassan. Just go over your presentation. Just present.
Okay.
Present
back,
the way you would.
Click back to the starting.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay. My research topic, as indicated there, is that factors that influence, that negatively influence. So negatively, it comes faster. Sorry. Factors that negatively influence access to education and other social services in Kulpio town. That is my research topic. Next. So, contextual background. I just want to give a little bit of the background. Having born in this town in 1993, I have started my Quranic school education in this town. When I turned 6 years, in late 1999, I reached the refugee camp with my late brother. This was the turning point of my life, and I was admitted to class 1. That's why I've started my academic journey. After a lot of hard work and determination, I've successfully completed my both primary and secondary education. Then from 2013, I have joined this program. I secured bursary in Bihar project. Despite the long academic journey, eventually, despite the long academic journey, that many could not believe it will end or it will end in vain. I've eventually come to finish it. So my late remains a strong pillar behind me. He was been encouraging me to keep moving on, telling me this is an opportunity that only fools waste. During my school vacations, what we used to do is he used to take me back home, take tour around the town, and he used to tell me that you will come back here and save the generations whose rights have been violated by the greedy self-centered Bawadasti individuals. So this is actually where things have started from. This is my relation from the side that I'm an insider. Next. Then below a few photos, and this is a description of those photos coming. Actually, children and youth. I mean here Anne with D. Children and youth that stayed behind after the collapse of the central government were less privileged than few whose parents took them to the death, not only to escape from danger of civil war, but also to get access to education opportunities. The photos below are two returnees from the death with education as a takeaway. After finding out they didn't need education there, in that particular town, they started their own free education initiatives. So they are from the camps, they reach here and find that there's need of education for kids. So they start running their own initiatives. They offer education service to the young children free of charge. Then click on, this is the young guys I'm referring to doing the initiatives. As you can see from the picture, all these students without uniform, school uniform, and those girls over there will show you the need, how they need education, access to education opportunities. And after having seen this, they feel like they have to share whatever they have to the people living or kids living in this particular location. Next. Still the same guys, Lana seated under this tree, no classes. You see, now they are addressing them now in this particular area. So they sit under this tree, they give talks, because there is no board, maybe there's no, the structure is existing there. And then next. Still the following class. These are different times, different classes or different occurrences or sessions, different sessions. So you can see still the same guys interacting with the students. So this shows there's a need to. Next. So this town is located in Badari district, Lower Juba of Somali, commonly known as Lower Juba, Somali, commonly known as Jubaland region. Despite it is beautiful in nature, the residents do not have access to any humanitarian services, i.e. education. Their last time to access social services was before the collapse of former central government of Somalia, headed by His Excellency Mohammed Siad Barre in 1991. That means they are not accessing. The regional government existing in Jubaland now is not offering humanitarian services. NGOs are not doing things there. they are not accessing education. And that doesn't mean they are not part of it. Actually, they are part of the regional administration, and majority of them are now paying the tax. Those who are in the town are now giving the tax, but actually the tax is directed to somewhere else. They are not accessing the services. Particularly, they are missing education opportunities. Those children who are eager to learn, wakes up every day. You can imagine they wake up every day, no access to classes, nothing to do. Children who are eager to learn wakes up every day and have nothing else to do than playing and swimming in the water catchment areas. It is a very, very, very cool town. There are a lot of water bodies around. So what children does is mostly they play around, they go swim in the those dams around. So that is the only business they have to do to engage themselves. Below is the picture of it. I think you click down. This is the nature, the town, the outskirts of it. This is the natural water catchment areas. This you can see this road. Somebody walking over there. It's a time when it has rained heavily. Up there we have this tree. We call it yak. I don't know whether my friend Mohammed Yak can know this tree.
Yes, it's wabab.
Eh?
Wabab tree.
Yeah, we call it yak in Somali.
Yes, yes.
It's well
And
known.
we make it houses.
Oh, so it is very big one. It is commonly grown around there. It is useful resource. Up there, you can see the wild animals that's in the bush far end. Places that are not accessible. The wild animals are just accessing all over there. So this is how beauty and nature is. But actually, what the people are missing is good governance. People are missing good governance where they can access services, where young generations are now educated so that come next time, we generations, youth, will have an enabling environment where everybody is taking over the leadership. So this is a picture of it. Next. This is also a historical part of it, where this you see these storage tanks. They are each of this composed of total number of these tanks are 18 in number. So there are 4 lines or 3 lines divided by 18. Maybe if you each row has a particular number. So during the regime of Mohammed Siad Barre before the collapse of 1991, this is where the food is the towns produce used to be kept. Big number of them. The picture not captured everywhere. So you see from the look, they are they have had a top cover on top. Now the top cover is removed, while animals like donkeys do play around this. Since the collapse of that government, no production, no good government, all these resources was not in use. So from the look, you can see that black things. Is the rain raining on it for long? No service is being given, so it's a wasted resource. Next, above is a picture of food storage tank. This tank was only in use before 1991. That's before the collapse, when there was production and social development. So the government was minding about its citizens. There was prosperity. People were making a lot of productions. Schools were running. People are accessing education. The central government was so concerned, caring about its citizens. Good leadership was in place. After the collapse of this government, civilians were not accessing any basic needs and social services. Yeah. Next. Still the landscape. Next. So my exposure to education opportunities back there from Kenyatta University and here at Chuk University made me think big and led me to seek an answer about the youth children residing in the Kolbio town. These youth and children who are neither get access to education opportunities from the locality they are living in, nor the means to make their way to the dark camp because of not having any relatives living that they can live with them there at the dark. I wanted to know how the future will look like. This children's future will look like because as generations come and generations goes with them should be treating a generation from another. So just to what worried me most is how the future is going to look like. There are a lot of major diagnoses that I have seen at the back of my mind. I wanted to know how the future looks like and how missing those opportunities impact their lifestyle. Actually, the world we are living today is a very difficult world. When somebody have skills or he or she can easily try to get his or her daily bread. So when these children and youth are not getting skills, educational skills, other skills, life skills, so life is going from from our knowledge and experience, life is going to be very tough for them. So they are going to have a kind of lifestyle that we cannot imagine. Think of also gender issues, girls. When even girls are facing problems, gender stereotypes, problem in access to education, a situation where there are a lot of schools. Think of a place like this where there is a number of schools, there's not good number of schools, or there's not even existing classes. So girls are also suffering in there. In addition, I worried the kind of future leaders we are going to have when youth are not accessing the educational rights. So as we grow, we need to have a kind of transitional government where maybe the politicians, these people who are tribal minded now when they go, we need to get youth who are now preaching this, moving youth who thinks about inclusivity, working together, general development. So if youth are not educated now, how are we going to have future leaders tomorrow? That's also one thing that worried me a little bit. Think about what can we do. Next. Having known some of the root causes, being self-centered individuals who are representing this population in power, not because of being elected by the population, but use of power of corruption, power of corrupting 50 selected elders who are supporting, who support the Equatorial Regional Administration, who want to surround themselves, support the ideologies of diverting the resources from intent receivers to personal gain. But they still need to have a further understanding about the other factors that negatively undermining youth progress in this particular town. Here, I mean that they are in any town in Somalia, in most towns, there are particular people who are now dominating the politics, who are in the politics. They are there, not because they have been elected, but they are there because of their own way of corrupting those people who are now in any religion. You know what they do is that they send a 50-old man to represent the entire population to do some kind of election. So what they do, they have some money, they give all those 50 elders some pride, so that they elect whom they want, not to who can represent the government. So Mr. the elect there is working for his own interest, not that of the residents. So he continued gathering, collecting money for his own interest, completely forgetting where he was representing. He only wakes up when his days, the 4 years term ends. There are some members of parliament who are now representing this population in central government, regional government. There are a lot of people who are to be blamed for this poor administration. So this dictatorial regime is what I want to understand more about, and how actually they are keeping themselves in power using this corruption way of maybe election corruption means. Next. Finally, after having done this research, it will help identify problems, and it finds findings assist in seeking durable solution to youth in that area. It takes ways in which understanding issues affecting youth in this will prevent further coming generations from experiencing similar problems. In addition, it helps provide good governance and good leadership for future generations as exposure to denial of those rights to the attention of humanitarian agencies and other well-wishers who may intervene and respond to this violation of human rights. So that is why it is actually why it is going to be important. Next. Yeah, this picture. Next. Yeah, absence of education makes children grow less productive youth out of young boys. These are how the faces of children in the absence of education looks like. The voiceless children are not being heard. All the human rights are being violated. Millions of coins spent every year, every time by UN goods does not reach the intended recipients of the population. Yeah, who benefits from these findings of this research? One is children, the voiceless boys and girls whose voices have not been heard for years. Will benefit from the findings of this research. Youth who are feeling less privileged and are not getting access to educational rights may also reap the attention of well-wishers who can in turn respond to their calls. The study is important for mothers whose mortality rate as a result of poor health attendance because if provided education of the youth, doctors can come out of these young boys and girls. The study will help as well beneficial. The study will be as well beneficial to the community at large, as it can realize social political shifts, which will lead good governance and good leadership in near future. Next.
I think that was the last one, Hassan.
Yes.
Do you want to add? Do you want to add any last comment or?
Yeah, over.
Yeah, the slides are finished.
Yeah, I'm over. I'm done.
All right. Thank you so much, Hassan. Another very thorough presentation. Thank you very much, Hassan. There's a lot of text too, which you wrote in. I saw a lot of commentary too, which is good. That's a good start for your paragraphs to begin to write ideas down. Omot, what I would suggest,
Yes,
if everyone's okay with it, what I would suggest is that we keep questions for Hassan after your presentation, and then we will just go with that way Omot you can present too, and then we'll just discuss Hassan's and your presentation. Is that okay?
fine.
So I'll pull up yours, Omot. Is that okay?
It's okay, Mirko. Go ahead.
Okay, so I will do that. I will pull up your presentation and then we'll talk about the two of them together. I mean, separately, but at the same time, that's what I mean. Obviously, because I have questions for both of you, which are different questions, but we can address those questions afterwards. But at least all of you have presented, because it is already almost it's 5 o'clock for you guys, right? So I don't want you to stay here
Yes.
the whole night, the whole evening with me. So let's because that's the thing with these topics, is that it's very easy to talk about because they're very, very interesting, right? And we have lots of things to talk about. But I mean, at some point we need to also conclude the session. So I'll leave the floor to Amat. Amat, do you want me to expand it a little bit, like to zoom in a little bit? Is that better?
It's fine. It is visible. Huh?
Perfect. Okay, the floor is yours, Amat.
Okay. Thank you. But network is disconnecting sometime. But let me move on. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And this is my research topic. I pick very clearly that everyone can see, even though there is a loop or there is a need of expanding later on. Let me focus on what it is. My research topic is impact of COVID-19 in the Dadaab's refugee camp, particularly on Friends Primary School. Friends Primary School is chosen because it is a multicultural school where students from different social and cultural background are learning. So my topic has a reason as to why I pick it. Because of the pandemic, I've been talking about this topic with my good friend Mohasia. Last time I shared with Mirko as well when I was in Nairobi. So this is a topic that is entail the impacts of COVID-19 and other contributed factors. There are contributed factors alongside the COVID-19 that added the suffering of targeted community problems. The community problems that I mentioned with this school, there are minority and also there are majority refugees who are learning. I mean to mention that because in this school, there are so many refugees who are coming from different backgrounds. And the problems that comes as a result of COVID-19 is because I've seen many students were ground or at home, and as a result, there was early pregnancy and also some sort of, social challenges, separation of families due to budget cut because most budget went for COVID-19 protection. There are students sponsored by UNHCR and other agencies because of their vulnerability. So those children are now not in schools. So I wanted to know the essence or the problem caused by COVID-19 in this particular school and other related factors. My relations to this topic is because I was here as a PTS chairman for 5 years, and now I'm serving as a BOM or Board of Management member. So I have plenty of knowledge about this school and the school communities as well. In the picture, this is a washing facility at the gate. Go down.
Okay. Is it this one
yes.
here? Is it this one up here?
Yes. Yeah, this one. So this is a hand washing facility meant for prevention of hygienic condition of students. But in the picture, you don't see any sensitizer being placed there. When students comes in, they have to pass through this while washing their hands. And if there is no any sensitizer, any sort of, cleaning matters or facilities being placed there, it's still there is a dangerous, because this water pipe down there is carrying living germs. So it seems the school is not protected, even though there is a washing facility being placed at the gate. The gate, that is the gate you will go and see, you will see tomorrow later on. And due to this, also budget cuts displace so many families, and the impact created joblessness because teachers were deducted, and also students also were, left alone without educational behavior or interest. There is an interest, but they are in confusion as to why they are at home for no, time that has been put in place. Because during pandemic last year in March, when the government, put on its restriction or directives, every student in Kenya were sent home, stay there for a long period of time. And there are so many irregularities comes in when it comes to discipline, because students have to be in school for so many reasons, not only to learn proper behavior or academic, but also there's sort of disciplining matters, either by parents or by organized, teams like PTAs. So those are not there up to now. When you see at this picture, this is a head teacher's office. As you are stepping into French primary school, you find head teacher rooms are there. This is the area that I mentioned also, that I have to take some time with head teachers or administrators as people who were infected by this pandemic. I have talked about teachers and other community members who were affected actually, because they are the community members or teaching staffs who are dwelling in this school with children. So in this matter, not only students who have been affected, but also teachers and also parents. The pandemic has direct and indirect impact. I mention this because direct impact went to students, yes, went to students who are learning in this school for missing out their studies. And direct impact also affected teachers who were teaching and earning their salaries. Due to budget cuts, there is a need now of stepping in and coming up with different mechanisms that can reconcile the gap or bridge the gap. In this picture, at the end, you could see children are there with no mask, and no social distancing is so maintained. So I'm wondering, why is it like that if the organizations who are sponsoring this school, in the signpost, you find the Kenya government, other stakeholders who are sponsoring this school. In the first picture, you found that there is a washing facility, but no sensitizers. In a school or learning rooms also, you find the students are not well protected. So those are the kind of areas that I wanted to look into as to why there is no consideration during the pandemic strike. And go stroll it up. Those are still the pictures of the schools there next to, in the blackboard. At the blackboard, there is a teacher teaching. he bent down teaching. He's writing on the chalkboard, but the students is still connected to one another. There is no social distancing observed there. Next. This is another picture that also indicated that there are empty, desks, because in this school there were students with physical challenges who were learning in this school under the protection of agencies who were sponsoring them. So they are not there. And those are students which are not well guided and well protected. So you cannot expect a perfect learning and teaching practices in such area. So that's why I mentioned not only the pandemic outcomes or impact, but also other contributed social and cultural matters. I'm looking into those areas so that I go to the bottom of this problem. This is part of building in this school where standard 8 pupils are using. Down there, those are planted trees. Also, this is just to see how the school is constructed in this sense. The students are not in classes. I was waiting and I decided to take this photo and use it as a reference. Next. Okay, this is a kitchen with a sack or a container of something. I went to the kitchen, there is no food because this school has to have a feeding program. There was a feeding program put in place in this school, but now there is no feeding program due to budget cuts. You have vulnerable students who are learning in this school, and you have students living with disability who are accessing this kitchen. So you can see this sack being placed there cannot fit students who are, deployed or enrolled in this particular school. So there is a feeding program need in this particular school in the future if education need to take place as it is planned. Next. Okay. So in this research, the finding of this research is to achieve a bridge to achieve some gaps or goals that make decision makers, readers, international and local organizations, including UNHCR, to benefit after understanding the problems, so for them to change the system, not only because of the pandemic, who are affecting the minority in this particular junction, but also the entire community. I talk of a school community who are benefiting or sending their school-going children to this school to have a better place to learn and also to have a better system put in place. Yeah, those are the administration blocks put together. There is headmaster, there is deputy and senior, and there is the staff rooms for the teachers in this school. I think this is the end.
I think so, Amo. This is the last page. Is there anything else that you want to add to this?
Okay, I forgot to mention who are the key players. The key players in this research are directly teachers and administrators. And of course, student head boys and girls, because they are leaders. I'm talking of leaders and some other school community members. I will talk about leadership in this refugee camp, especially block leaders and section leaders who are sending their children into this school because they need to cooperate with the school or education administrators, including the organization that are sponsoring, and also, of course, the Kenya government Department of Refugee Affairs in the camp.
Thank you, Ahmad. Thank you so much for your presentation. Did I understand you well that you're finished, or did you want to still add something and I kind of cut you off? Ahmad?
Yes?
Did I cut you off? I'm sorry, did I say that I cut you off? Were you still adding something, or was it actually finished?
No, I'm finished because
Okay.
I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. Thank you for your presentation. No, I was afraid that you wanted to add something else, and that I had stopped you by saying, "Oh, thank you, Ahmad." You know what I mean? By congratulating you, I had stopped you, involuntarily stopped you from continuing your presentation. That's why I was afraid of.
Not at all. You've been doing good.
Thank you so much for your presentation, both Hassan and Ahmad. So, what I'll do is, Mohammed, do you have any questions for either Hassan or Ahmad that you've drafted that you want to take up? Since I'll start with you, since you were the first one to present now, and you haven't had the chance to give your own feedback to your peers' presentations. So I'll start with you. If you have any questions for either Hassan or Ahmad or both, go for it.
I don't have much questions for both of them, but for Hassan, I want to know, he's in Mogadishu, I think, and his research is happening town that's very far from where Mogadishu is, which is in Review. So what I want to him is it a thesis wise whether you can travel, and we know the situation there. I think Review and Mogadishu are not having a direct link whereby you can fly from here directly. When you're doing a research, that will need a huge resource. How will he cope up that research while he's stationed in Mogadishu? So that's one thing that I want to ask him about his hobby. Formats, I think his topic is well presented, and it's a perfect one, and the time is also good. But I think one of the things that he was saying I had is that there's no feeding program in the school that he was doing the research. That's Friends Primary School, and I think for those schools that are run by LWF in the camps, there is that feeding program that's continuing. I don't know when the COVID has just when the COVID started, the schools are being cut off from the program of feeding program. But what I know is that that program was there for the schools that's run by LWF. So that's I want us to clarify that one. If that school is not having that program.
Thank you.
Hassan, if you want to take your question, but with very brief responses though, like 1 minute.
Yeah.
And then Ahmad, if you want to take Mohammed's question. Thank you, Mohammed, for both those questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. Actually, you have asked a very good question. There's some factors I have already considered and put in place, and I don't have mobility problem. I am connected to so many people there, and I have no traveling problem. It's just like when you are in Nairobi, the capital city, for a reason of work, and when you feel like knowing something happening in the depth, it will not cost you individually. You can move all the way to the depth. So I've planned, and I have a lot of experience related to it, a lot of connections, a lot of way of reaching them all. Majority of also the resident also in Kismayo, I can reach them anytime. Yeah. I think well answered.
Thank you, Hassan. Yes, that is answered. I don't know if then Mohammed, I mean, if he has further questions about methodology, maybe we can go back to it. But I'll let Omar answer his question first, if he wants to, and then I'll at least give him the chance to.
Okay, I am aware that LWF is providing and in charge of education in the Dadaab camp. Having saying this, I don't know why there is no feeding program right now. Maybe there is lack of material or any sort of anything. That's why I display this photo as my reference. And I am having time to sit with headmasters who is an administrator there to know whether it was a day where I pay a visit, and also is it a continuous problem? I would sort out, but I found that there was no feeding program. I would have taken good photo there, and I will come back with good reason or any feedback during my visit.
I want to ask something.
Okay. Welcome, Hassan.
Yes, Hassan, go. You wanted to ask a question to Omar?
Yeah.
Go for it. And then Omar, if you have any questions for Hassan too, you can go right after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Omar, I will have asked a little bit of suggestions, not more questions or elaborations, little bit clarifications on this area. We know that primary schools, particularly those in Ifo, I don't know Hagadere, are facing particular problem, educational problem. I know that the LWF fired all the teachers, almost all, and they have only sent to schools for like 4 teachers against over 2,000 learners of grade 1, 2, 3, all the way to grade 8, which is very, very, very big challenge. So why will you have made the research little bit wider to cater for all those problems? Or generally, the 8 primary schools in Ifo, we have only 8 primary schools. So why don't you cut across the 8 primary schools and bring out that bigger issues of generally in that locality? And although it is easy for you, it's reachable that you can move from one particular primary school to another because they are all within the camp. And not only friends who are having all this problem, but similarly, other 7 primary schools are also having the same problem. So if it is more of identifying a problem and seeking solution, putting more efforts in doing that, why don't you little bit make it wider and highlight, including all that sending of teachers, cutting of, reducing number of staff in primary schools, the impact, all those. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Hassan. This is a sort of expansion of my topic research. That is a very good comment. I don't know, because when research topic is very large, there are sort of or some of impact. I would take your question or your point as it is as important, and also get advice from my professor Mirko later on. If it is possible for me to go ahead, I'm very much happy. Why not the only secondary here is sponsored by UNICEF and also the community? You brought out very good point. This is there is that we plan for. You know, in 2009, when I was a PTA chairman of French primary school, I used to be a secretary of PTS chairman cut across the camp. So we do meet thoroughly on weekly basis, thinking of, you know, constructing community-based or community-driven secondary schools. And one of them is one school that you had mentioned. I know LW is in charge with a lot of problems that the organization could not afford. That's why they had a meeting last year, I don't know, in December, coming with this strategy of deducting teachers and, you know, telling parents that it is up to you to hire or to fire. And on top of that, they said, we are going to change this administration by Kenyan nationals so that there is no refugee staffs that can work as administrator. This caused fire. And I don't know why they realized later. And the other end also, they said parents should pay 500 per each student. This is still a topic that on the table that burning parents, including myself. What if Hassan has 7 children in one particular primary and you are told to pay 500 each for a student, for a single student, and you are a refugee for that matter? Those are the kind of, you know, contributive factors that I mentioned before, whether this organization is qualified or fit to take charge in education, which is the life of our future children. So your point is very good, but let me go also and ask and understand the importance of inclusivity, including even secondary school. I was even thinking of, you know, doing my research, including secondary schools. So let me see, your point is very, very good, and I accept it. So get me time a bit, I will work on it and come back.
So Omar, before I just, so this is what's left to do in a sense. Omar, if you want to ask Hassan a question about his presentation because you haven't had the chance to, go ahead. After
Yes.
that, I just wanted to give a few questions on my own to both of you. And then
Good.
if there's last few comments, we can have a last few comments and then we'll close it after that. So maybe another 10 minutes maximum, okay? And then we'll close the session because I know that it's getting late for you, all of you. So, and here too, it's day now. So I started that it was completely black outside and now the sun is completely up. So I mean, it's been a long day already. But I mean, for all of us. So I mean, all I'm saying is it's good that we reach a sort of concluding point for today. And so maybe another 10 minutes, but Omot, in this order, you ask a question, Hassan, if you have one, then I'll ask my questions, and then we can have just a round of final comments, and then we'll close it there. Go for it, Omot.
Okay, mine is not a question, just to encourage my brother Hassan, because he's in an area that lack security. So his project is more of, you know, something that relating him or engaging him with the community. His mobility is definite. So I'm wondering if the security issues are allowing him or is allowing him to do his research. I'm concerning of his, you know, mobility. Number 2 is in an area where there is no stable government. He mentioned of, you know, tackling these corrupt leaders who are selecting the leaders for their benefit. That is self-centered political leadership. So if he wanted to do a research so that there are good leaders to have a good governance, tomorrow how is it possible for Hassan, where there is no stable government and where is there no also a stable security matters put in place? How is it? What are the modality or methods that is going to work for him? And also, you need to think about his life, and what the resource. And you talk about his mobility is good, but there are sort of challenges. For three of us now, we can mobilize our resource, the local resource, and go to our communities. And this goes to me and also to Mr. Sayer, as well as him. But we need also to think about time constraint. How is it possible for him to go in a particular time to catch up what he desires or what he deserves for his country? Because this is a very huge agenda. And I appreciate that he is going to really work for his country. But I need him also to think about himself before helping others. How is it possible for you, Hassan?
Yes. Yes.
I'm done, Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Omar. Thank you for your concern at first for my security. Actually, it is something very genuine what you have touched, and as well, Mohammed touched. Particularly, why I've chosen this particular area is an area that is now not accessing all those services. And when I'm talking of those politicians who corrupt for elections, I'm referring to those particular politicians in the parliament, in the central government, in the regional government, who managed to use money to access to power, and yet who are not now, and I just want to understand the impact and how this is happening. For me, I will be engaging more of interviews. I will engage more of quantitative interviews. I can reach so many people through a phone call. I'm connected. I have a lot of. I can do it more of particular online. If I feel like meeting a particular individuals groups to face meeting, I can fly all the way to Kismayo one time, finish my activity, whatever it costs me. I have to accept the costs constraint. I know it's very challenging, but I have to do it. That is the particular area I want to understand what is happening. And it is my research interest, because when we are doing research, we need to solve a particular problem. We need to understand a particular problem. We need to understand factors behind particular problem. So I will be using online interviews. I will be making phone calls. I will be reaching places which are secure, and I have the residents with the experiences of the town who reach access the town. Here, even some of them in Mogadishu, I can interview them. I can reach them here from Mogadishu. I have some in the regional government capital, Kismayo. I can reach there. I can reach a number of residents who goes there to and fro. And I'm connected to several people who are victims of that education, people who are in that particular town. I can as well connect to them as well. Yeah. And furthermore, the place is also accessible from that other point, from the website. It's accessible and it is secure. The town itself is under the control of Kenyan armed forces, Kenyan militant, and Somali national forces. So it is also accessible from, I can access even if I happen to read it, I can yet access it. But although it is, as we have said, costly, I will discuss with Micro on methodologies I can apply best on to limit the expenses, actually. Thank you for your clarification, and it will also help me open maybe way forward together with Micro Thank you, Mr. Ahmad, for highlighting that.
You're welcome, Hassan.
So I have to say, guys, that first of all, the session has been wonderful. Just listening to all the 3 presentations and the research topics you've selected, the information you've put forward, it's been wonderful. It's been really great. It's been an absolute pleasure for me and privilege to listen to all 3 of you. And the questions that you had for each other very much echoed my own. So the things that I wrote down and the questions I had actually were not very different from the ones that you just posed each other. And so I think one of the elements for sure that Hassan, that you need to think about in your research topic is definitely the methodology. Mohammed, yes.
Yeah, for Mirko, you conclude for us this session. I wanted to say some few tips with my friends and also share some of my thoughts. As I was having last session with my master, I have understood a lot of things, and also the bits that I read from Susan Tilley's book that helped me to think in a different way that I was thinking before. I don't know whether my friends have the same issues. One of the things that I've seen in those pages is the Susan says here before the final touch on the official research questions, which are a sign of the end of a time-consuming process and the beginning of another level in the planning. Students may want to consider the following questions. The questions are there, very important questions. One of the things that I see, considering the research focus and question, possibility of accessing an appropriate research context or potential participants here is very key before we move on. And for our case, me and Omot, I think participants we can access. But for Hassan, I think it's something that you have to consider before you move on with this kind of research. Again, this access and robots in behind from which 40 to 41. It's very important. I read that, but and it's something that we need to think before we move on. One of the examples that I can read here from Susan's writing is students may have great interesting ambition for their research, but they must also ascertain the likelihood that an appropriate research site will be accessible and successful recruitment of participants is likely. So there's a level of trust is necessary before access is granted. So that one is also something that we need to think about. One last thing that I want to share with my friends is Susan says here, important questions for students to consider at the planning stage include this. What is the likelihood that they can access the context imagined? So an experienced someone like Susan is repeating access in a book. So I think it's something that we need to think about the access communication and also participants in our research. So with those few remarks, I would say thank you.
Those are really excellent points, Mohammed, and I think I did see you waving the book, the Susan Tilley book before too. So I did notice that you were looking to Susan Tilley for some answers as well. And I do encourage Hassan and Ahmad, everyone, I mean all of you, to keep reading Susan Tilley's work, because it is very helpful in crafting research questions and choosing a research topic. When it comes to so I'll resume from what I was saying, but thank you for those comments, Mohammed, because they do sum up the comments that I had as well for Hassan. So it is definitely a question of access, but doesn't mean, Hassan, it doesn't mean that you cannot approach the topic. It simply means it's something to think about, right? As you think about the topic. So it's something that you need to maybe work on a little bit further to think how you would be able to reach people there, how you would be able, what kinds of questions you would be asking these people as well. Because there is, Amat is right in the sense of thinking about also of the dangers, in a sense, involved in questioning, when you're trying to question authority, in a sense, right? It's something that we want to do, so we want to be critical, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we're not, that the impact that we might have with a possible research might not be negative, not only on ourselves, but also on the participants, right? So we have to always think about these things as well. So there might be dangers, for example, in making claims about government, right? Of local administration by the local participants, for example. There may be negative impacts in that, right? If for any reason someone finds out that these people have been talking badly about their administration and so forth. So we have to think about all of this. I do think, Hassan, that the topic right now is very broad anyways. It's very, very broad. So we need to try to narrow it down a little bit, because speaking about access to all social services is quite a big stretch, right? So it's something that we need to think about moving forward. I did really, really like, Hassan, your questions about the future. Those were beautiful questions. You said you're concerned about how the future will look like, right? For these learners, or for these children, for these youth, really, right, in the region. And what about future leaders? I think in these questions, I think you might have some very interesting possible research questions. So maybe not so much focusing on government and administration, but focusing more on the future of these, like what are these youth thinking about their future, right? In the absence of education. You see what I'm saying, Hassan? That could be a very interesting research project right there. Just having conversations with the youth about their futures and possible education or lack of education, right? Like, so what are they thinking for their future? How do they see themselves? And what is the potential for leadership in the absence of education? I think those are wonderful questions, Hassan. And I think it might be more fruitful to go in that direction more so than in the direction of looking at poverty, like more so than access to services in general. You see what I'm saying? But we can think about that more in detail as we move on. But these are some thoughts, some questions I had, and some comments about as you start writing next week. Omot, on the other hand, for you, my question sort of echoes
before
what.
Omot, please. Before Omot. Allow me to.
Before Omot. Okay, you wanted to comment. Okay, go for it. Very quickly, Hassan.
Not commenting. What I want to ask is that now that when it comes to accessibility or the methods, it is fine if I can access someone through phone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Phone calls, online. Tell me.
I think I have no problem. I have a good number of youth from the region in Mogadishu itself, which I can reach out, and as well some in Kismayo, which I can reach out, and a bigger number whom I can reach out through phone call.
That's
so
great.
I think it is okay if it is allowed to reach people through phone call during interviews.
That's great, Hassan. The fact that you have, and that sort of answers this question about access. You can definitely access sites in a way remotely as well. And in fact, during COVID, like I think a lot of us will have to do research remotely, right? Like I'm not saying maybe Mohammed and Omot not so much, but a lot of us here in Canada as well that's what we're doing. We're doing research remotely because we can't move, right? We can't travel anymore. So everyone's pretty much moving into phone interviews, into online interviews. So all those are very acceptable methods, Hassan, to do research. Absolutely. Yeah. I take Mohammed's point about access more to be about like, would you have access to, for example, to get information from administration, for example, those kind of access. That would be much more difficult and also dangerous, right?
I will narrow it as you have said. No.
Yeah, so that's what the way I read Mohammed's comments was also not so much necessarily just the like interviewing children or parents. That I am sure you would be able to do no problem through phone. Yeah. But it might be getting access to information that could help you, for example, describe the corruption that's happening behind the scenes, right? That is very difficult to obtain information about that, right? So that access to that kind of information would be important to your research, the way you framed it, but would probably be very difficult to access. Therefore, that's why I'm saying it might be more fruitful to change the frame of your research, to think about something else within it. So,
but yet, I think asking people about the people are representing the government, the service, all those. We can get questions regarding.
There's ways. There's ways that you can ask that, but we'll have to think about very carefully about language, about the way the questions are framed, if that's what you really want to do.
Oh,
I personally think that it's more fruitful to go in the direction of the youth's future. But we'll talk about it. Like in the meantime, you start writing your paragraphs, start writing what you think about it now, and then we'll talk about it more. Like you don't, these are questions and comments to think about, right? Necessarily. Okay, Omot, oh shoot, Omot is in a rush. Unfortunately, he's being asked to leave. Omot, can I just give you very quickly just the question for you?
Okay, please.
Just very quickly. So it very much echoes Hassan's, what Hassan was saying about teacher cuts specifically, right?
Okay.
So my question is that there are two questions actually, and they're interrelated. So why focus on Friends School, right? Why focus on Friends School? And so is it because Friends School is a good example of what is happening in the Dab to education because of COVID? Or is it because Friends School is to you is more important because something's happening there that is not happening in other schools?
Yes.
Does that make sense, Amat?
Yes.
So that's what I want you to think about.
Okay.
That's what I want you to think about. So is your focus on Friends School because Friends School is representative of what is happening all over the Dab? Because if that's the case, then Hassan is right. Then it might be more interesting to look at a cross section of different schools, right? And seeing how maybe one specific issue, for example, teacher cuts, is influencing everyone, right? Instead, if your question is, if your interest in Friends School is because of something else, it's because you think that Friends School has something particular and specific that's happening there that is not happening elsewhere, then that needs to be better defined. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I can send you guys, I can resend on WhatsApp the questions for each and every one, for each one of you that I was thinking in comments. And anyways, what will happen is when you write your paragraphs and send them to me by next week, what will happen is I will read your paragraphs and resend you anyways my feedback. And the questions might be in the feedback anyways, okay?
All right.
All right, Omar, don't worry. If you have to go. Hassan, Mohammed, let's close the session here. It was wonderful. It was really, truly wonderful. It was an absolute privilege and pleasure to be part of this discussion. I did record it, so you have access to recording if you want to. I just rewatch over maybe some of the conversations, and I'll close it here. Have a good evening, all of you. Have a good session tomorrow with Esther. Talk to Esther, she'll tell you the time. She'll communicate with you the time, okay? And she'll tell you the assignment as well, but you know the assignment. You just have to write your paragraphs, basically. You have to begin writing your paragraphs. That's all. Have a great evening. Bless all of you, your family.
Assignment.
Have a great weekend as well. Tell me, Hassan.
You have said the assignment, the paragraphs.
Yes, 3 paragraphs. 1 paragraph for each question.
Oh, the very questions.
Yes, that's right. The very questions. But
what is the topic? Why is it important?
And the key players.
Key players. How about this slideshows you have shared? I think I have answered them there.
Yes, exactly. So this was a way to start answering them, right? So basically, what you're gonna do now, Hassan, is you're gonna take what you wrote here in the commentaries. And you're gonna take the conversations that we had and the thoughts that you had after today and start writing it, and start putting it all together in a sense in 3 cohesive paragraphs.
I got it. The last question is what I wanted to little bit understand. The last question.
Who is impacted, right? The stakeholders?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we mean generally now, Hassan, right now, what you need to know is basically think about who would be impacted by your research. So you said the children, for sure. Children, right? Parents of children, the whole community, really, all the groups that make up the community of Calbion Town, right, Hassan? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Calbion Town.
Yeah.
Basically, all the community. So you have to think about all the groups that make up Calbion Town and how they would be impacted by your possible research topic. That's what you have to think about. And so think about all the key players that you might have to interview, you might have to access in order to build your research in a sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Great sense.
Possible stakeholders. So if you're speaking of the government, so you'd have to maybe look to the government. If you're speaking of NGOs, then you might have to look to NGOs. That's what I mean, Hassan. So all those possible like actors that take part and are impacted by your research, and that you might need to draw in for your research.
Maybe, yeah. If at all, maybe a given stakeholders is not playing their role, can they be questioned of why not doing that service, particular service?
Say that again, Hassan. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could they be questions about why not?
Yeah, I'm saying if a particular, maybe it be government, regional government, or other players like the NGOs are not playing their part, can it be
Okay.
part of the stakeholders to be questioned about why not?
That could be it too. That could be like gaps. Gaps could be part of the of your paragraph as well. So identified gaps. So like it's really what it is, Hassan, is trying to, so what that last paragraph is doing is trying to help you understand who is affected or involved in your research. And trust me, the first draft, Hassan, will probably not be complete. Like what will happen is I will give you feedback next time, and then you'll be like, okay, oh, I didn't think of maybe these few, or right, hadn't thought of this person here or this group here that might be affected as well. It's just about trying to place your research, the impact of your research, right? And trying to also start thinking about your methodology. It's a way to start thinking about the impact of your research, as well as the goals, but also in terms of the methods that you'll be using and who you're trying to reach. So it's a little bit of what Mohammed was saying earlier about access and report, right?
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Hassan?
Yes.
So just write a first draft, use what you have, Hassan, use the commentaries that you build with the pictures. That was the point of this step, right? That was the point of having the photo narrative with commentaries. It was like an intermediate step rather than just writing right away. This was a way to like start helping you think about what you want to say, and then slowly get to writing, and then get to writing instead. You know what I mean? So it's like almost a transitional step into writing. That's why I thought of this presentation, like this visual presentation. But yeah, that's pretty much it, Hassan. So write a first draft of these 3 paragraphs. Each paragraph has to answer one of the 3 questions, basically, right? So each paragraph answers one question.
Each paragraph can be like how many?
Standard paragraphs are about 5 to 6 lines. It's not lines, sorry, sentences, Hassan. 5 to 6 sentences. Or make up a paragraph usually. So roughly 250 words per paragraph, right? 200 words, between 150 and 250 words per paragraph. Try to be, you know what, Hassan, try to be as effective as you can. Like try to be as precise as you can with the language. You know, like you don't need to write too much right now. It's not about writing a lot. Right now it's about being very, very precise with what you want to do, what it is you want to research, why it's important. These are the actors that are involved. And then afterwards we'll build on it.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Hassan?
Yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Hassan,
you.
No, not a problem at all. Again, it's really a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the conversations and discussions.
Actually, I've enjoyed it, and I've gained a lot of things that was not clear before.
I'm glad. I'm really I'm happy about that. Tomorrow, make sure you meet with Esther. Esther will communicate the time to you guys, and then you can meet together and keep the conversations and discussions going with her as well. Okay?
So tomorrow we'll be discussing with the paragraphs.
Yeah, you're basically going to be discussing the paragraphs, and I think Esther will also allow you some time to start writing them as well.
And then immediately before I joined, there was that kind of examples raised whatsoever you're explaining with Ruqiyya and that team.
Don't worry. It's okay. Hassan, so you guys are split into so you're split into groups, right? So you guys are group 3, you guys are working on this. Group 2 is working on something else. They're working on something else. Don't worry about what I was telling you, Ruqiyya. But I mean, but if you are interested, Hassan, if you are interested in the concept mapping that I was showing Rukia, that's what you were referring to, the little concept map. We can go through it at some point together as well if you're interested in that.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
different way of taking notes. Have you ever done it before?
No.
You've never done concept mapping as a way of taking notes when you're reading? You haven't?
Oh, I haven't. Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do is, if you're interested, Hassan, I can send you a few things, and then next time maybe we can talk about it next time a little bit, if you're
Okay.
interested.
Yeah, so.
But I'm gonna go now because it is almost it is almost.
Thank you.
It is almost. I think what is it? It's almost 6 o'clock there, right, Hassan?
Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah.
Too late in the evening. Nice to meet you. Good day.
Have a great
Yes.
evening and a good night, Hassan, and a blessed weekend. Okay, with you and your family.
You
And
too.
take good care. And any questions, let me know. As always, on WhatsApp. I'm there. I'm available.
Thank you. We'll
Right?
talk about a time when you are not tired about the methods.
Yes, you will.
Way of narrowing that what I have, and as well how to reach out those things like the categories of people.
Exactly, Hassan. For the moment, write what you have. Write what you have for your first draft, and then we'll start refining it together through feedback and second and third drafts.
Okay, thank you. Have a good.
No problem, Hassan.
Day.
All the best.
Nice time.
Nice day. Take care, Hassan. All the best, my friend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, too.